Morning everybody, this is video number 1 or 2 depending on whether or not we are reloading brand new brass or once fired brass. But as always, welcome, I'm Martin, I work here at Decapping UK, and this is going to be one of the videos in our series about how to reload our brass, going from fired brass to brand new brass ready to go again. Hopefully this will just be a short video. This should be a simple step, but if we refer to our sheet of where we're at, obviously we've got 22 Creedmoor Hornady brass here that's once times fired. This was fired at the range recently. First step, as you can see, is to decap or deprime depending on your vernacular. Very simple. I've got my my fired brass here still with primers in place, and what we're going to be using today is a Reading small decapping die. Reason I use the Reading one is because it's got a small pin. Now we all know that there are small and large rifle primers, and what I didn't realise originally is that some of the Lapua flash holes are smaller than the regular flash holes. So the pin on the Reading is specifically designed to accommodate for those smaller flash holes. That way when we're depriming, we're not going to be stretching out the mouths of the flash holes in our cases. And even on these ones which just have a standard flash hole, it doesn't matter, it will still work absolutely fine. If you do your reloading process slightly different to me, where I will use a full length sizing die and then a mandrel die afterwards, you will potentially decap at the same point. However, this is all about how I reload, and that's what I'm going to be showing you. So with that, let's move over to the press. Okay, we're over to the press now. For those eagle-eyed viewers, you will notice that I am using a Mech Marksman press, but honestly any press will do. I only reload on a single stage press. That is a deliberate decision on my behalf, but it is what it is, and please excuse the untidy workbench we've got going on behind us. So Reading decapping die, all this does is decap, it doesn't do anything else. As far as setting your die goes, move that out of the way, it doesn't really matter how high you have it. It only does one job. This is a really simple step, so we're not going to overthink it. First step is to pop out this primer, so appropriate size shell holder. Perfect. The shell holder goes into the press, and all that's going to do, and I'm careful because I don't want to damage the flash holes, all we're going to do, pop down, you can hear it rattle out, and there is our case primed. Goes into a fresh ice cream tub, hence why I seem to collect these things, and we're off to the races. After that, it should be nice and simple. I don't put undue pressure on it, let the press and the die do the work. Some come out easier than others, but what I don't want to do is risk either missing that flash hole or bending the pin. So while some people will do this faster than I will, I'm trying to be really careful to look after my equipment. The stuff isn't maybe as expensive as some, but it's equally not cheap, and we don't want to be throwing away money. So that's as simple as it gets, and complete until you've got all of your cases from one bucket into the next, missing the primers, and we can get our pen and tick off decapped, and then it goes into the new bin. It's as simple as that. And then we're following down our list. The next step on our reloading schedule is wet tumbling. It's going to be cleaning them, so you can see that I'm going to be using this style of wet tumbler over here, and we'll move that onto that in the next video. I just thought I should maybe take an opportunity to explain why I do this step of decapping. separately rather than as part of like with the dies and using that central stem. For me it's logical, but it took me a while to sort of get my head around it. If we want to use our full length resizing die with the central stem on it and use that to decap, what that means is that we're putting dirty range brass through our dies, which most of us go to quite considerable effort to try and look after and keep clean, and I don't want the dirty brass going into my nice clean die and using that for the decapping. That means we've only got two options. The other option is that we tumble the brass with the primers still in before putting what would then be clean brass through our dies. The problem for that, for me, is that you won't clean the primer pockets because they're still full of a primer, and that can get that, when you start looking at the state of primer pocket holes, they get really mucky, and I want those cleaned out of that carbon and any other debris that's in there. So for me, by putting this, potentially could be considered as an extra step of just decapping all by itself. It means that when I put these into clean, it cleans the primer pockets, and then when it comes to sizing, I'm looking after my dies and it's nice clean brass that's going into our dies. I hope that makes sense. Again, this is not how you have to do it, it's just how I choose to do it, because to me that makes sense of getting the pockets cleaned and looking after the dies. But hey, you do you. If you want to do it your way, I'm not going to tell you it's wrong. It isn't wrong, it will work, no problems with it whatsoever. But for me, this is why I do it this way. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So I'm going to call it a day for this one. Simple step, but this is how I do it. Other than that, take care, stay safe, and God bless.